All right, Mr. Supervisor, the meeting is yours. Let me know if you need anything.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, fellow board members and members of the public. I'd like to welcome you to the regular board meeting of April 20th, 2021 at 7 p.m. This is an electronic meeting which is authorized under the Open Meetings Act, Public Act 267 of 1976 as amended. Members of the public body and members of the public may participate electronically as described and instructed via the township website and postings throughout the township. And with that, I will call the meeting to order, and I would at 7:01, and I would like to have us all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Mr. Clark, can you do roll call, please?
Supervisor Kowal,
Here.
Clerk Noble here, White Lake Township,
White Lake Township here also. Thank you, Mr. Noble.
Treasurer Roman,
Here, White Lake Township.
Trustee Ruggles,
Here, White Lake Township.
Trustee Smith,
here, White Lake Township.
Trustee Voorhees,
Present, White Lake Township.
Trustee Powell.
Here, White Lake Township.
Very good. I'd like to get a motion to approve the agenda. Mr. Clerk, you have an amendment?
Supervisor Kowal, I'd like to remove 9A, which involves the VFW. That was paid by anonymous donor.
Very good. Also, at this time, I'd like to add item 9J, which will be the approval to purchase of bulk grinder stations. That being said, those two notations, looking for a motion to approve the agenda from my board members.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I have a motion to approve by Mr. Ruggles, looking for support from Mr. Powell. Mr. Noble, roll call vote.
Supervisor Kowal,
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes. Treasurer Roman,
Yes.
Trustee Ruggles,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes,
Trustee Voorhees,
Yes,
and Trustee Powell.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item is item number 5. It's public comment. At this time, if anything that you'd like to say that is either on or off the agenda, you may have 3 minutes to speak your piece. If you are on the agenda tonight as a member of or one of the parties that's committed to an item that is on the agenda, you will have time at that time to address that item. Rob, do you have anybody out there?
There are no resident phone callers in the meeting at this point.
Okay. That being said, I will close public comment and then move on to consent agenda. Mr. Clerk?
Supervisor Kowal.
I'm looking for a motion, Mr.
Oh,
Clerk.
I'm sorry. Motion to approve consent agenda.
support.
I have a motion from Supervisor, from Clerk Noble, and I have support from Trustee Liz Smith. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Kowal,
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes. Treasurer Roman,
Yes.
Trustee Ruggles,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes,
Trustee Voorhees,
yes,
Trustee Powell.
Yes.
Thank you, board members. Moving on to item number 7A, the approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of March 16th, 2021. As you know, we're trying to stay on top of those as best as we can, and I will say our new deputy clerk is really good at doing that. Does anybody have any comment or addition at this time? If not, looking for a motion to approve. Mr. Powell?
Mr. Supervisor, I move approval of the minutes for the regular board meeting of March 16th, 2021 as presented.
Looking for support?
Support.
Andrew will support.
I have support from Trustee Scott Ruggles. I have motion and support for approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of March 16th, 2021. Mr. Noble?
Trustee Smith,
yes,
Treasurer Roman,
Yes.
Trustee Voorhees,
Yes,
Trustee Ruggles,
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes. Supervisor Kowal,
Yes.
Trustee Powell.
Yes.
Okay, I have before us a proclamation of mental health awareness. And as we know that we have all gone through a very difficult time in one way or another in this last year to a year and a half. The thoughts behind this was that Oakland County Community Health Network, which I had their number down here and I don't have it, so I don't know where it went, but I had it written down here.
Because I need that, Mr. Supervisor, very desperately.
Well, I'm telling you, there are a multitude of people that do.
My office is in that building, Mr. Paul. I know you're joking, but my office is in that building, so if you really need it, I can absolutely supply it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, we will put that forth on our website along with the proclamation. And I apologize to my board members because I did have that written down. I don't know where my note went. Nonetheless, yes, Trustee Smith,
I believe I have it if you'd like it.
I would love it.
There's a brand new hotline that's rolled out today for Oakland County. It's 1-844-44-64-225.
Thank you very much, Trustee Smith.
You're welcome.
Nonetheless, there's the seriousness of this that we all have gone through this last year. And I would like to take a moment at this time to thank all my fellow board members for dealing with everything they have in the last year and trying to keep the community at large whole and also going forward. It has been a challenge for all of us. So National White Lake Township Proclamation Mental Health Awareness Month, May 2021. Whereas mental health is important for our individual well-being and vitality, as well as that our families, communities, and business. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has been a reminder of the importance of integrating mental health into preparedness and response plans for public health emergencies. And whereas younger adults, racial, ethnic, minorities, essential workers, and adult caregivers reported having disproportionately worse mental health outcomes, increased substance use, and elevated suicide ideation associated with COVID-19. And whereas 1 in 6 U.S. children, listen to this, 1 in 6 U.S. children ages 2 to 8, 17.4% had a diagnosis of mental, behavior, or developmental disorder. And whereas May 6, 2021 has been designated as the National Children's Mental Health Awareness Day, and May 2nd through May 8th, 2021 is designated as Children's Mental Health Awareness Week. And whereas Oakland Community Health Network is committed to being a zero suicide organization and cultivate a network of providers who engage in a zero suicide philosophy. And whereas mental illness is a biological based brain disorder and cannot be overcome through willpower and is not related to the defeat in a person's character or intelligence. And whereas mental health recovery not only benefits individuals with mental health disorders by focusing on their abilities to live, work, learn, and fully participate and contribute to our society, but also enriches the culture of our community life. And whereas the Oakland County Health Network and its service provider agencies are committed to inspire hope, empowering people, and strengthening communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that White Lake Township hereby recognizes May 2021 as Mental Health Awareness Month. White Lake calls upon our citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to recommit our state to increasing awareness and understanding of mental illness and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental illnesses to promote recovery. 1-844-446-4225. Thank you, Trustee Smith, for that number. And that would be a number that you could reach out for help. And of course, any residents out there that ever have a problem, the township is there to try to help you any way that it can. Thank you very much. I'm looking for that proclamation to be accepted just by a show of hands from all the board members here because we don't have a resolution. Thank you.
Mr.
Okay.
Supervisor,
Yes, sir.
if I could just state along with this, that I personally have stopped having to listen to the national press and the national news because it was in fact causing me some issues. And our social network and our national press and the national politicians have not done anything to help the residents of this country in dealing with mental health. And it'd be nice if we could come together and speak a little bit more objectively and optimistically in this country.
I agree, Mr. Powell. That being said, I appreciate all that. And at this moment in time, I would like to move on to our new business. Item A, of course, has been removed. It was dismissed, paid for by an anonymous donor. So Lisa, you don't have to worry about that. Item 9B is a 2021 OPEB. As we know, and many of you who have been on the board for a period of time, it's the other post-employment benefits employer contributions, which I'm very happy to say that Mr. Roman, through his excellent fiduciary capacity, has put us in a good position. Mr. Roman.
Yeah, it's that time again. Wow. Usually right after settlement, we take in our tax revenue for the year. It's usually when I ask the board to go ahead and make this contribution. I think it's either our 5th or 6th year. We're making a big dent in this liability, and I'm honored to ask the board to approve this contribution again. I'll put that in the form of a motion for $790,000.
We have that in the form of a motion. At this point, I believe we are looking for support of that motion.
Or
I have support from Mr. Scott Ruggles. Mr. Noble, roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Colwell,
Yes.
Treasurer Roman,
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes. Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Trustee Ruggles,
yes.
Trustee Powell,
Yes.
Trustee Voorhees. Trustee Voorhees,
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, motion carries. Item 9C, Resolution 21-013, Michigan Amputee Golf Association Charitable Gaming Licenses. I think this is kind of a cool thing. And Mr. Noble, I'm going to let you handle that.
Board members, before you have attached resolution 21-013 requesting a charitable gaming license for the Michigan Amputee Golf Association. This event's going to be held August 13th at Brentwood Golf Course. It's a fundraiser to raise charitable donations for the above mentioned event. And I would like to make a motion to pass this tonight.
It is in the form of motion. We have support from Trustee Michael Powell for the authorization of the gaming license. Any other questions from the board at the moment? Okay, Mr. Noble, roll call vote.
Clerk Noble, yes. Treasurer Roman,
Yes.
Supervisor Colwell,
Yes.
Trustee Powell,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Trustee Voorhees. Trustee Voorhees,
Yes. My
Okay.
volume's not off.
Trustee Ruggles.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item D, request to waive conflict of interest or Foster Swift. Apparently, the library would like to retain Foster Swift as their legal firm, represent them in all their legal affairs. And since we had culminated a relationship with Foster Swift, I believe that they feel comfortable with them. And they're looking for a waiver to make sure that there's not conflict of interest in their representation of the library in relation to any and all businesses that may or may not involve the township in general. Lisa, you have a comment?
Just that they do already represent the library and they represent the township in a matter, I believe, still that stayed at Foster Swift. They want to represent the library specifically in a matter that might be opposite the township. And that's why they need a waiver of the conflict from both the township and the library. And that matter that they're referring to is an agreement to separate certain functions from the township and or creating a district library and having an agreement to which the township would have to be a party to either of those agreements. And that's why they have to come and ask for a waiver, since really you have Foster Swift representing the township in a matter. You're going to have them opposite the township with this conflict waiver. There are different people who are working on it. There's lots of lawyers at that firm. So, but they cannot represent the opposite the township without this waiver.
I have a comment.
Mr. Ruggles.
Lisa, isn't this the definition of conflict of interest?
It may be, because if the town, her letter seems to indicate that the township and the library want to deal or in agreement with the separation. And so if the township and the library are on the same page, you might not have opposing interests. But
Well,
you might,
if that were the case, why would we need attorneys?
to draft the proper documents.
I just, I don't know. Okay.
Trustee Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Just to let Phil and my fellow board members, they just want to separate their payroll and their insurance. That's what they're looking to do, to separate and handle them themselves. And then possibly they might need a lawyer as they explore becoming a district library. Holly, Groveland, and Rose Township, I believe, don't have a current library, so they might look to expand their services to our neighboring communities. But they're just, and this particular attorney from Foster Swift is the go-to library attorney for the state of Michigan. So they're hoping to retain her just to help with those drafting of documents to separate from insurance and payroll.
She
Thank you
did
very
offer
much.
to be here today.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Powell.
I can see why they would want Foster Swift, because there are no other attorneys in this state that they can go to, but I'm being a little facetious. I just see a potential in the future of a difference of agreement or difference of opinion between the library and the township and working in the future. And I have an uneasy feeling about this, Mr. Supervisor.
Same.
Well, be that as it may, they will have a particular any law firm that they choose to represent themselves in their interest in not only the understanding of which they will want to break off their payroll and their benefits package and be it on their own on it. But they may have other legal matters which would not even involve the township for other advice or direction that they need to do. We have retained the what I will call the property real estate wing of Foster Swift, Ben Price, and in that particular capacity. And we've also retained Mark Kroner as through Foster Swift as part of our legal counsel on the WODA board. But they serve very specific functions and very specific areas of expertise. And I can't necessarily say there's a plus or a minus. They're looking for representation. They have had a relationship with Foster Swift, and I don't know if there's any particular harm in this particular decision. So I don't see anything. Any other comments from any other board? Mr. Roman.
So currently, the way our administration is set up is the library's payroll is part of the township's payroll, as are some of their benefits. It totally complicates the accounting for payroll and benefits. If there's anything I learned with our with this new library building that was put up, it's that the library is its own entity with its own board. So I have no issues with the separation. I think that's the way it should have been a long time ago. And whatever we can do to help the library with that, I'm in support of.
I guess I don't understand, Mr. Roman. Are you suggesting that you don't see any conflict? As you know, we have a downtown that we're trying to develop, and an awfully lot of intergovernmental agreements may have to be signed and agreed to between the library and the township. And you don't see a conflict there?
I see no conflict at all, Mike. I mean, from an attorney perspective, I don't know that we'll use Foster Swift ever again.
Well, at least Lisa goes back.
I don't see that happening. Yeah, I don't see any conflict here, guys.
Okay, Trustee Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. It's my understanding that they're just looking for legal counsel just to separate for payroll and insurance purposes only, that this is just, you know, a particular need. So moving on in the future, to Mr. Powell, I don't think it will affect anything else. So their budget's normally done in October and November, and they're being charged $100 a year, a month, $100 a month by the township. And starting January, they started to be charged $1,700 for our payroll services. So they're not budgeted for it. So they're looking to separate and just handle their own payroll and their own insurance for their budget purposes.
Mr. Noble?
Yeah, Trustee Smith, it's my understanding, like the Milford Library, Wild Lake Library, Commerce, they kind of have a reciprocal agreement where you can use those different libraries. That's kind of what you're talking about tonight, correct?
The TLN service.
Yeah. So that being said, I'm in support of that because I don't see a conflict of interest in that because, you know, within Detroit, that's a small community with, you know, large law firms, and I see the separation there myself, and I'm in support of that so they could go off and conduct their business.
Hey, I got a question.
Very good. Mr. Ruggles?
I thought we were just specifically discussing the conflict of interest between.
Right.
That
Foster
is
Swift.
the subject matter that we should be discussing.
Right.
Yeah, so we're not discussing whether or not they should do their own payroll or anything like that.
No,
We're discussing one government agency, another one, and the same attorney in the middle of them. And I don't know how anybody could foresee a conflict arising, but that's why there's attorneys, right?
Right.
So when it does arise, then you've got the same attorney on both sides, and that's
that's
textbook
not,
definition of a conflict.
yeah, that's not necessarily the case because Foster Swift does not represent us in our general law practice at our office. They only represent us in specific areas.
Right. And Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, this particular attorney is specifically a library law attorney.
Yeah, Rick, can I speak?
Please.
First of all, I do want to correct something that was said. There is a conflict of interest. There's no question there is a conflict of interest. That's why she's asking the township board to waive that conflict as it relates to this particular matter. If you're not comfortable, you can specifically waive it to a specific matter. You can limit the scope however you feel is appropriate. Or you can say no. All of that is up to you. That's why she's asking that you waive the conflict. And to answer Trustee Smith's question, yeah, Ann is very well known across the state as a library lawyer. That's not to say there aren't other lawyers, but I know that Ann is very well respected in the community.
Well, then it may be a motion that we would look for that would be approval for the specific duty of the separation of the physical services, we'll call it, or financial services that the township provides to the library and limited only to that action. Question, comment?
My question would be to Lisa. So I do believe that they may explore separating as a district attorney, excuse me, a district library. So would they would need an attorney for just those, you know, document purposes and setting that up. This attorney probably would do that for them. So we can include that also, or do we need to be just very limited to separation of fiscal responsibilities, I think Mr. Cole called it.
It's really a comfort level for this board. You
I-
can,
Yeah, I understand, Lisa, and I think that, I think it could be for the separation of the township for those purposes and the discovery or
I don't think there's a
looking-
final decision there yet, so I don't want to have to make them come back to us if they do
Right.
decide to become a district
and
library.
looking into a form being a service to form a district library.
I think the next step beyond looking into forming a district library, it looks like she might want an agreement to be entered into between the township and the library. And maybe if, if you're not comfortable going that far yet, then maybe allowing, her to represent them in the exploration investigation kind of the district library. But if they wanted to approach the township for an agreement, then they would have to come back and you can reevaluate at that time. Again, you don't have to do it this way. It's your comfort level.
So our board has no say whether they want to become a district library or not. We would just be deciding if, we waive the conflict of interest with Foster Swift as they pursue becoming a district library or not.
Her letter, Liz, it's where I get it. I don't know anything about forming a district library, but her letter seems to indicate that there may be an agreement to create a new district library that the township might have to be a party to. That's why I said that. I don't know if that's the case. I'm just looking at the letter.
Well, I would like to put this out there and just to see what the thoughts are, to limit to separation of payroll and HR services and benefits and explore and advise on district library formulation.
Are you making a motion?
Well, I'm looking at as a proposed motion and I believe it covers what they're looking to immediately do. And things would have to come back to the board, obviously, for another review. But I would like to say that I would put that in the form of a motion.
And I would support that. Thank you.
I have motion and support. Any other conversation from the board members? Mr. Roman?
Yeah, you guys have me totally lost. I thought the agenda item was for the board to consider waiving any conflict of interest with Foster Swift.
It is, but limited to what my capacity said. I just said, limited to that capacity and only that capacity.
Okay, and does our legal counsel agree with your motion?
Yes, she does.
Does she?
I think it's fine. You're not saying that she can represent the library against the township in anything that might come up. You're limiting the scope of what you're waiving that conflict to.
Okay.
Gives them a very specific box to perform within, but meets the criteria of what they're trying to do.
And it's still approving the conflict.
Very limited box. Okay.
Okay,
So,
so
yeah.
because I don't totally agree with that motion, Rick. I'm not in favor of it, just so that my fellow
Okay, well,
board members know.
I agree. We have motion, we have support. Looking for Mr. Noble, a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Powell,
No.
trustee Voorhees. Trustee Voorhees,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
My volume is on. I'll turn it up, but yes.
Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes. Trustee Smith,
Yes.
trustee Ruggles,
No.
treasurer Roman,
No.
clerk Noble, yes. Supervisor Kowal,
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to next item. Resolution Resolution 21-014, agreement between White Lake Township and our new fire chief, John Holland. Does the board have any questions on that particular agreement at this time? It has been gone over by our labor attorney and our HR and myself and John. He is in agreement with it and looked at internally through the three electeds in-house. And we would like to move forward with it, but of course, we want to have to bring it to the board and want everybody to be aware of it. So is there any questions or anything anybody has? Mr. Powell?
I just want to state personally and professionally that John Holland, Chief John Holland, is an incredible man and what an asset to the township. On a professional level, I have worked with him, and he has he's a thinking fire deputy and now chief, and I just appreciate him being part of the township.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. Anyone else at this time? Ms. Voorhees?
Yeah, I just want to congratulate, John also, I did it in person the day he was sworn in, but I love the fact that he's one of the first in-house rising through the ranks fire chiefs we've had in years. So from that perspective, as a proud White Laker, and I know John is too, welcome and congratulations again.
Congratulations there, John. So kudos. Trustee Smith?
I think we all could go through the line because we're all so excited that we
Mhm.
have our new Chief Holland, and congratulate you. I'm so sorry that we weren't at your swearing in ceremony, but I hope that we can celebrate you later and get together because you certainly deserve it. And I've had the opportunity to talk to some firemen recently this week, and they are thrilled to have you as their new chief. So congratulations.
I will just interject there momentarily, Trustee Smith, only because there will be a swearing in ceremony at 2:00 on Thursday at the pavilion.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
the official, so that we didn't have a gap in services, was done. This will be a
Mhm.
more of a ceremonial. And we will also be swearing in our new fire marshal. So we'll get
So 2 p.m. on Thursday.
2 p.m. on Thursday at the pavilion. Yes.
I wouldn't miss it for anything. Thank you.
Outside affair, I believe an email went out, but I wouldn't swear by it. But nonetheless, I wanted to make everyone aware of that today. Any other, Mr. Ruggles?
Yeah, John, congratulations. If you thought we were tough on you before. I'm burning 2x4s right now outside.
John, I'm excited to watch you lead the department. Start a tradition from the inside, starting from the ground level, making it to where you're at. Coming from public service background, I think it's important, and you're starting the tradition, and I'm very excited for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Roman?
I echo all of the comments that you've already heard. John, I'm totally honored, just honored to have you as our new fire chief.
Thank you.
Very good. That being said, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 21-014. That will be the agreement between the White Lake Township and Chief John Holland, and authorize the supervisor to execute any and all necessary documents for that agreement. That is in the form of a motion. Looking for support. Mr. Ruggles?
Or
Mr. Ruggles gets that one. Mr. Noble, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Ruggles,
yes,
Trustee Voorhees,
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes. Supervisor Colwell,
Yes.
Treasurer Roman,
Yes.
Trustee Powell,
Absolutely, yes.
and Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Very good. Well, now you're going to get paid, John. Okay, so. Item F will be resolution 21-015, which is Twin Lakes Road Special Assessment District Bond, of which I will turn this over to Mr. Roman, our treasurer. Michael?
Thanks, Rick. This is the resolution that would approve the township to go ahead and sell bonds to fund that project. This resolution was completed somewhat late in the game. My apologies for this getting to some of you so late. I know none of us are bond experts. I, as you are trusting that our bond attorney crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's. So with that, I would like to make a motion to approve this resolution number 21-015 and allow any and all township officials to sign it and or amend it if needed.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Looking for support.
Gary will support that.
We have support from Andrew Voorhees for resolution 21-015, special assessment bond series 2021 for the
Twin Lakes.
Twin Lakes. I'll be fine. Okay. I will say Mr. Noble, roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Kowal,
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes. Treasurer Roman,
Yes.
Trustee Ruggles,
Scott,
Yes.
you're muted.
Sorry, yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes,
Trustee Voorhees,
Yes.
Trustee Powell.
Yes,
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item G. Item G is kind of, I'll call it sort of a housekeeping matter, of which a few times a year we come before the board to address the different amendments that are attached to fee ordinance number 129 amendments. As you all have had a packet, there are a variety. In the cemetery end of things, there has been obviously some increased costs. They're minimal, but the sexton's costs have gone up a little bit, so therefore those costs have been passed on. There are very few increases, and through the suggestion of the building department and our building official, some of those costs have also been adjusted. Any questions from the board members at this time?
Yeah.
Mr. Ruggles?
Yeah, I think I've spoke out on this topic at least 3 times now. And it seems as though whenever our township sexton would like a raise, he passes it along to the township, and then we subsequently had to send it down to our residents. We've now got an increase in the baby rate, any burial after 4 p.m., Saturday burial. And I don't know how many times this will continue to happen until we maybe put the sexton work out to bid. That's something for the clerk to look into. But even before Mr. Noble got here, I think I mentioned this to Terry on multiple occasions. So it's something to consider. And I don't know how many more increases will just flow down the pipe until somebody steps in front of it. So that's just my thought, but I'm not going to vote in favor of this until maybe somebody addresses that issue. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Andrew Voorhees?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Scott with that too. I mean, I know I would love to see some comparisons to other sexton services. Yeah, it seems like every year he's like, I need more. So he just pushes it off on his residents. So yeah, I'm going to be in agreement with Scott. I would love to see more numbers, different numbers. That's all.
Very good. Trustee Smith?
thank you, Mr. Supervisor. May I suggest that we make an amended motion to pull that out of this and put that out to bids and then move forward with the others? Would that be possible, Clerk Noble?
We could, I believe, withdraw the cemetery's end of this and revise and revisit that. Lisa, comment?
Yeah, so this is just first reading. So normally you just make whatever changes you want, pass for first to second reading, and then the notice of consideration that's published will have whatever changes that you're making today, so that when it comes to second reading, you can just adopt it.
the
Well,
problem is, of course,
Mr. Powell?
the problem is, of course, that if we send this through to second reading, we then could be left without a sexton at the second reading. And so we need to have these prices. I mean, that's a 50% increase in fees. And it'd be really nice to have some comparisons before we act on this.
I don't disagree with you on this. So I'm just, for the record.
Should we table the whole agenda item so that it moves forward as a complete item then?
Well, we could come back and amend it. Lisa, you have a recommendation?
I mean, if there's a rush on anything, unless there's a rush on anything, there's no harm in tabling it.
I don't believe there is. I believe we could table this. Mr. Roman?
Well, my thought is, these are their fees. This is the increase they need. I believe we should approve these as their pass-through fees. And if we believe they're too high, I think we should look elsewhere. But I do think we should approve these.
Okay, can I say something, you guys?
No.
These fees are from a contract that we signed back in September, so we're aware of this. So contractually, we're under contract from September.
These are
know
increases
that.
that were part of that contract that was approved.
Correct,
So if we didn't approve this, then the township would eat the difference?
Correct.
Lisa? I believe so, Scott. That was prior to,
I
I'm
don't
sorry.
recall seeing a contract, so I don't know what it says as far as the fees.
it was prior to my tenure coming in November 20th, but I don't want to put us in a trick bag either.
The contract for the cemetery sexton was approved last fall, approximately October, November, from an anonymous person who's watching.
There you go.
Well, if that's the case, then maybe we.
Yeah,
just
I mean,
move
if it's in
forward
the
with this.
contract,
What I would say the board should consider, and the clerk can make note of this and use this meeting as a baseline, is that I would suggest not to have an interruption of services for our residents, is to abide by their contract agreement, move forward with this, but take this under review and potentially look at this whole as a bigger picture and see what we can come up with and put a little homework behind it. I know it's new to your wheelhouse, Mr. Clerk, but I believe you can look at that. Mr. Roman, I can assure you that Mr. Roman and Mr. Powell don't look good behind a shovel.
I
And
love using a backhoe.
there you go.
Uh,
That would be, that would be
Scott.
Scott.
Trustee
agree with that.
Ruggles,
Yeah.
Trustee Ruggles, like I said, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I actually agree with it. I think there's a lot of things that we can look at to be more efficient. And so tomorrow, my deputy clerk and I will dive headfirst into this, and we'll look at the contract, and I can email you guys back and come up with our findings.
I'm fine with that, and we're all on the same
Okay.
page now, so
Yeah.
just,
Trustee Smith?
Thank you Supervisor Cole. Clerk Noble, when does the contract end? Can you give us a quick,
I don't have it in front of me right now, so I'll be able to tell you tomorrow.
okay, sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you.
But I would say not to have an interruption in services for our residents, as I would think that we should probably push this on and go to, now that we're all really aware of it, go to further review. So that being said, any more discussion before someone makes a motion? Mr. Powell?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, I move the modifications to fee ordinance 129 as presented be moved to second reading.
Okay, we have a motion looking for support.
Support.
Support from Mr. Roman to move to second reading. Mr. Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Kowal,
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes. Treasurer Roman,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes,
Trustee Voorhees,
No,
Trustee Ruggles.
yes.
Very good. Motion carries. We will look into this. No, Mr. Noble will be very diligent about that. Thank you very much.
And everybody, I will send an email out in the next day or so to let you know when the contract expires and what our alternatives are. And I'll have it spelled out for you in an email fashion.
great, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Noble. Item H, rezoning request 7775 Highland Road. A little piece of property that's been, seems like it's been doing what it's been doing for a long time. Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you, sir. I just noticed the agenda considers this a rezoning request, but just for, I guess, inclusion in the minutes, this is technically the first reading of the rezoning. As we know, it's a two-step process. So this would be the first reading, not just simply a rezoning request for 7775 Highland Road. This is tax parcel ID number 12-21-276-019. It is approximately 6.66 acres in size. Most of you probably have had an opportunity to look at the location of this property in your packet, but I will back up here and share my screen so I can make sure everyone's familiar with it. Can everybody see this? It's a little blurry. Hopefully you can see it. So if you see this kind of collection of blue tarps, this is the property. Just to get your bearings, here's Coles, M59, Elizabeth Lake Road. Let me switch over to, oh, no, that's not what I want. No, it's not cooperating. Okay. Let me back up. Okay. Here is I'm having a technical difficulty. Sorry, just 1 second. Okay. Now, if you can see my screen, here is a parcel map that shows boxed in red the subject property. The owner of the property is Mr. Wade Brancho, who is with us tonight. He was before the Planning Commission on the 15th of April, where the public hearing was held and where there was one participant who commented on it and had objection. After going through the planning review, which concluded with a recommendation for approval based on the fact that the request is consistent with the master plan. The requested rezoning from suburban farm to local business is consistent with the master plan and future land use map. Rezoning the parcel to local business is compatible with the character of the surrounding area. Rezoning the parcel to local business will not result in spot zoning, and the parcel is a reasonable module of land for local business development. That was the findings of the planning review. There was also a recommendation that a rezoning traffic study be waived. The Planning Commission made that recommendation to you formally. The minutes are not ready yet, but that was a recommendation that this be rezoned from suburban farm to local business, and that the rezoning traffic study be waived. Here is a parcel for, I think, according to Janine Smith, the assessor, since the early 90s, we have been taxing this parcel as a business to some extent. There's been a business in operation. As you can see here, the collection of blue tarps is boat storage. Mr. Brancho made mention that he will, as of June 1st, cease the operation of boat storage. That's actually a tenant of his that rents from him on this property that does this. It is not his operation, but again, this has been going on for quite some time now. The master plan for this area considers this to be part of the town center focus area, and that actually kind of encompasses the whole Elizabeth Lake Road and M59 area, and it also includes the Lakes Village planning area. The entire property falls within that. So that basically means that there is an opportunity in the master plan. It contemplates there being an opportunity for this to be used in kind of mixed use fashion. So local business would be consistent with the master plan, as would a multiple family type designation. So there is some flexibility. Again, there was one neighboring parcel owner that objected to this, but ultimately the Planning Commission made the recommendation to you that this be approved. So I don't know if Mr. Brancho has anything to add, or if you have any questions for him. I know he's here somewhere on your screen. I'll stop sharing so we can all see each other. And if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to try and answer it.
Anyone at this time have any questions? I think we're all familiar with the parcel, and it has been operating as a business for many years. Mr. Powell?
Yes, just to Sean, I'm wondering, are there any residents that use the common drive as access to their their residence?
This common drive is only accesses the Brancho property. There are no other adjacent neighboring residents that would use the driveway back to his property. I will say though, and this is probably important, let me bring my screen back up again. He's tucked behind AutoZone, which is right here, and the Centerpoint Plaza property, which is right here, and it's shown in an earlier state of construction. But Tranquility is the name of the street sign, is what the street sign says on this access drive that runs east of AutoZone. It's really there's no such street. These are all M59 addresses. This is the Prain property owned by Mr. Stephen Prain. He does have a renter in here. I think he operates some sort of a business out of this property. It is zoned suburban farm, as is the Brancho property. We had actually inquired as to whether or not Mr. Prain wanted to rezone at this time as well and kind of have them both go concurrently. He was not interested. But to answer your initial question, Mr. Powell, no, only this drive all the way back only serves a Brancho property. The Prain property is able to access this drive just opposite of AutoZone's driveway in.
Okay, as a follow-up to that, I just want to make sure that everyone understands that this in no way deals with any site plan issues, buffering, parking, any of that stuff. It's just strictly a request for rezoning, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Powell, and that was discussed at length at the planning commission because obviously what's on this property is non-conforming. If Mr. Branchow decided to clear the land and build, an office building of some sort, he would have to comply with all of the ordinance requirements, and buffering is obviously one of the bigger items. So you are absolutely correct, and that was made very clear to the planning commission and to Mr. Branchow through the discussion on the 15th of this month.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Can we get back to the full screen? Thank you, Sean. Any other questions from the board members? Okay, seeing as there is no questions, looking for a motion.
Mr. Supervisor,
Yes, Mr. Powell.
I move to, well, let me ask a question of Sean before I make a motion. There were really two questions. One is the rezoning or the first reading of the rezoning and moving to second reading. And the other one was the potential of waiving the traffic study. Is there any reason why we should approve the waiving of the traffic study, or at least addressing that independent of moving this forward?
I believe the planning commission dealt with it all as one question. They made the recommendation, and they, in their recommendation, found that the rezoning traffic study was unnecessary and waived that requirement. So I think you could probably do that all at one time while you move this to second reading if you so choose.
All right, then Mr. Supervisor, I move that we forward the proposed rezoning request from Suburban Farms to local business, specifically for address 7775 Highland Road, parcel number 1221-276-019 to second reading.
We have a motion looking for support.
I'll support it.
We have support from Clerk Noble to move to second reading for 7775 Highland Road. Roll call vote, please.
Just had one question. Did you mean to include the waiver at this time, or are you going to deal with that separately?
Yes, that was only a single motion, certainly, and we could have brought that up next time, but move the traffic study waiver to second reading as well.
Very good. And Mr. Noble, you amend your support?
I'll amend my support.
Okay. Moving on, roll call vote.
Treasurer Roman,
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes. Trustee Ruggles,
Yes.
Supervisor Kowal,
Yes.
Trustee Voorhees,
Yes.
Trustee Powell,
Yes,
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you
as
very much.
a point of interest, Mr. Supervisor, about 15 years ago, a study was done on this property and the surrounding properties for a Target location. And that would have been quite a coup for White Lake Township, but that never came about.
I do recall that was a number of years ago. Thank you, Mr. Powell, for that brief history lesson.
Yes,
It's always interesting to know these things. I would like to go on to item I, which is a plan development waiver request for a minimum parcel size. And this will be reference to parcel number 1221426-004, formerly known as the Scott Ruggles Marketplace. So of which Mr. Ruggles has nothing to do with. He was just a tenant there. But nonetheless, there is a site plan that is before the planning, going to be coming before the planning commission and in the planning department. And this has a unique set of characteristics to deal with. And if the board remembers, there was a while back that we made a change that the plan development was a requirement to have 10 acres or more, but we implemented a tool in the box to allow for a waiver on lesser parcels. And after a lengthy review of what is in the township and what parcels are left in the township, it made good sense to have that tool in the box because we have a multitude of smaller parcels now, just under the 10 acres. And I believe that is what this is going to do, will allow the planning and to have a little more, few more tools in the box, so to speak, to use. Mr. O'Neill?
Thank you. Yes, you kind of had a nice segue there into this. And just to kind of back up quickly, you've done one of these before. There was a church down across from the White Lake Marketplace that sought a waiver a couple of years back. And at that time, they brought the same kind of request, and the request only allows them to proceed through the process with the 10-acre waiver. It does not give them any right or any approval other than the ability to proceed ahead. So it's pretty harmless, especially when it makes sense. I think this one could make sense, and we'll get into that in just a second. But this parcel is 8.61 acres. I know you are all familiar with this corner. It is bordered on 2 sides by roads and the other 2 sides by a wetland and a stream. So it's quite a difficult parcel. Adding land, contiguous land to this that would be usable is not an easy task. So, it is very close to the 10 acres. The 10-acre minimum was just simply to try to require there to be a sizable piece of land, so we didn't have a ton of tiny little pieces that weren't intentionally planned together. And in this case, that's definitely not their intent. They're just sort of operating with what they've got here. So on March 18th, this request was brought to the Planning Commission, and they had quite a bit of discussion. As you can imagine, this is really kind of at the northern gateway into what will be our future, civic center area. And the Planning Commission they're all very sensitive to that. And a lot of their comments really got really beyond the realm of the waiver request and got into maybe some of the specifics of the plan. With this plan, we do require a simple layout be included, and I'll share in just one second with you that layout. But a lot of our discussion at the Planning Commission got into some of the real specifics of the plan, as opposed to just the idea that they could be allowed to move ahead through the process. So I think it's important for the applicant and for the board to know what some of the Planning Commission's concerns were, but I think those would be dealt with at the time of site plan approval if they get the waiver tonight. But at the same time, if they're going to move ahead and they are fortunate enough to get the waiver tonight, it sounds like the Planning Commission's already given them, kind of a peek into their thought process. So that may, I think, drive some creative changes to their plan. Let me share the screen here. So in front of you, you see that southwest corner of M59 and Elizabeth. You can clearly see Highland Road and Elizabeth Lake Road. This is that 8.61 acres that we're talking about. There is a loop road, which would allow you to avoid using the intersection at M59 if need be. And it also provides access, as you can see over here, to what would then be kind of a landlocked parcel, which is a large acreage parcel that is behind the current library and where the township's property is located. That would likely be a future residential development. As you can see, they've left a large open area for future development that's just a couple of acres in size. This plan's been reviewed and feedback has been given to the applicant. But again, the specifics of this plan are really not what's before you tonight. It's just simply demonstrating to you what they are proposing on this corner. So you have an idea. What's before you is just them asking permission to move ahead through the process. And I know Mr. Yaldo is here and may want to speak. And I think this would be a good candidate for a waiver, but I do want to stress to you, as the Planning Commission asked me to, that they want the design of this to be more complementary to the Civic Center district that we're trying to create and more compliant with the master plan. They would like to see some of the buildings face Elizabeth Lake Road, and they have concerns about walkability, wetland buffers, and the look of drive-through uses on that corner. So I'll stop my sharing and I'll back up. If anybody has any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them, or Mr. Yaldo may have something to add, or you may have questions for him. I see him on your screen at this point as well.
Board members, Mr. Powell.
Yeah, I knew it'd surprise you if I raised my hand. I think the Planning Commission is right on in looking at this plan, and I look at it and I'm going to represent it this way. It looks like an engineer designed it. Very unimaginative, no creativity, strip mall. all facing, and so let me just also put a little plug in here for what I have been interpreting for the PUDs in or the PBs in White Lake. They've been applied for here in White Lake because the applicant knows that he can get more if he applies under the PD. I have been very disappointed in the lack of give back to the township on PBs in the township. We haven't gotten more pathways. We haven't gotten any donations. We haven't gotten any creativity, no help really to the township. It's always been one-sided, and that's just my personal feeling, of course. And so I'm a major fan of PB, PUDs, number of names that it can go under. But most communities ask more of the developer than the developer does the communities, and we haven't done that. Most cases I'd be in major favor of this, but I'm not at all in favor of this plan. And I understand this is a totally independent part of approving PUD or PB. And maybe Sean can expand on that a little bit. This allows him, I believe, to apply for PB zoning, which requires a site plan, as Sean presented. It requires architectural drawings. It requires land. It requires a great deal of additional expense to the developer. But I'm really looking, as Sean pointed out in the Planning Commission's concern, this is huge for the downtown area for White Lake Township, and I don't see that this plan even approaches what we need.
Well, again, Mr. Powell, I'll just remind you and the board that this is not a matter of this particular plan. Is strictly, and really, I believe that we have made, I think, the point clear to him.
Yes.
From a number of levels. It is merely going to allow them to have another tool in their box and also with the township to move forward. So critiquing this particular plan.
I had to make a commentary.
I understand, but I don't want to have anyone to have a preconceived notion that this is the plan. We need to get past this and realize that they're now looking. They weren't even aware that this tool was available to them ultimately when this was all kind of conjured up. So now they know that these tools are available in the box, and I think that I have a lot of faith in the Planning Commission, and of course, this particular item would come back before the board ultimately for a looky-loo, and we would go from there. So I don't want to confuse the issues to the public or to any of the other board members.
Okay,
that this is by any shape or imagination the plan that would be approved. Not. Okay. Any other questions from the board members at this time? Trustee Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I just wanted to add and kind of spring off of Mr. Powell. I was the audience of the Planning Commission meeting on March 18th, and they were very vocal and very upfront about their wishes and desires and tweaks and that they would like to see changed in this plan. So I do have faith in our Planning Commission as well, that they were very in tune to what we're looking for our community and the Civic Center, and they did make that very well known during their meeting. So I just wanted to share that with my colleagues.
Thank you. Mr. Noble.
Yeah, I have a couple comments. Coming from the Planning Commission, I have almost faith with them and with Sean and Justin moving forward from here. I do agree with Mr. Powell as far as some of the PUD give backs. If you remember, we were able to obtain some funds for Stanley Park when regarding to the development farther down from Boca Vina. We're able to, so I think moving forward, I agree with that, whether it's some trees, donations, whatever. I think that's a great idea, but I think we have a great planning department and Planning Commission. So I've almost faced moving forward, we'll be able to work our way through that diligently.
Great, thank you. Any other comments from the board? That being said, I'm looking for a motion. Trustee Smith.
I don't think she can hear you.
I can, I was on mute, I apologize. Okay. Let me just pull it up, I'm sorry. I wasn't prepared to make a motion. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to amend zoning ordinance number 58 to allow a waiver from 10-acre parcel to, is it 3?
Will be a plan development waiver.
Oh, sorry, I see it. Plan development waiver. Is that sufficient?
That's
Sean?
sufficient.
Okay, perfect.
There's a motion looking for support.
Support.
Support from Clerk Anthony Noble. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
trustee Voorhees. Trustee Voorhees.
Sorry, that was my fault. I'm me. Yes.
Okay. Trustee Ruggles,
Yes.
trustee Powell,
Yes.
supervisor Colwell,
Yes.
treasurer Roman,
Yes.
clerk Noble. Yes.
Okay. Mr. Yaldo.
I thank you all for your time, for your consideration. We'll meet and see what we can do with the plan to better accommodate what you guys are looking for. I also wanted to apologize because I know this was up once before and I failed to attend. And again, I apologize. It's just been some COVID-related after effects. I was in the hospital for 7 days and this COVID was it's just been brutal. But thank you for your consideration.
You're very welcome, Mr. Yaldo. On behalf of the board, I'm sure they all feel that way. And we certainly appreciate you looking at this parcel and working with our planning commission. And I can assure you that what will become of this or could become of this will only be an asset, a great asset, not only to White Lake, but also to yourself and your other individuals of your group as owners. Thank you very much tonight. And I'm glad to see you got your waiver. Okay.
Thank you.
Until,
Item J, we'll move on to item J, and that is the approval of the purchase of bulk grinder stations. And I'm not sure if Aaron phoned in tonight or not. I know that's other things going on, but I'm not sure if that's him on the line right now or not. Is that Aaron?
Looks like him.
That could be Rob. That
Aaron, if that's you, you can unmute yourself by pressing *6.
We'll see. Nonetheless, what had happened is very late in the day today, actually quite late in the day, and Aaron called me and was notified by the vendor that he was able to do a bulk buy and get a considerable discount on buying on the purchase of 25 grinder station units. That being said, he called me hoping that we could walk this on this evening because anything that we can save is always a savings for the township. We have no doubt in my mind that we will blow through 25 of these units in a heartbeat, seeing the number of certificate of occupancies that I've been, that Mr. Roman and Mr. Noble and myself have been signing off on here recently, and a number of projects that are in the pipe. So it will be a good decision for us to purchase it. Normally, when we have a bulk buy through a plotted development that has multiple units and the developer comes in and does a prepay, the board has authorized us just to go forward with that. Well, we have enough of those to do quite a few, but this opportunity comes along and it makes a considerable difference in savings of about $1,000 a unit. So there is a considerable savings of doing this. They have the money to do it. And Aaron would like to move forward with this because he believes that he's got about 14 or 50 of these units promised right away. So shouldn't be a problem. Mr. Powell.
Yeah, I'm sorry. For some reason, I may not have pulled it up. Could you please tell me, are these the typical Barnes pumps for the township? And then what is the cost?
These are the Simplex pumps. Hang on one second here. I just had that and then I got something got lost here. Okay. You should have that email. It is a quantity of 25 Simplex base packages, 24 by 72 fiberglass base with poly cover, 4-inch Schedule 40 inlet grommet, inch and a quarter stainless steel discharge. They are at a price of $2,936 each. And if my memory serves me correct, those are in the $3,700 to $3,900 bought in lesser volume. So there is a savings to the township. We probably have, I'm going to guess, between $300 and $400 shipping So I would say that if we go for a motion, I would say not to approve up to about 90,000. And Aaron had asked me if we could even go to 100, because if he can get a few more units, he believes that he can get a better deal, yet may be able to get free shipping over the certain number of units. So I would seek a motion for 100,000. I mean, this is going to be something we have to order anyways, and if we can save the money on it, it makes sense to do it.
I'm and I've been a favor of the township having extra units. This cost is about $300, $400 less than the comparable E1 competitors. And this is the best price that I've seen that White Lake Township's had before us in many, many years. Normally, when you buy a truckload, the shipping is free. And is it my understanding that they are still housed for free, stored for free by our supplier?
No, we actually now have an area that we are storing them at one of our water plants. The difficulty that we've had is that, and I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way, but there has been a number of times that we would get down to the last 4 or 5 stations, and lo and behold, something's missing a lid, something's missing a valve body, something's missing this part, that part. And nobody knows anything.
Been there, yes.
So when they're in our possession, which is something that I pushed for, and we have created a space at one of our yards, which I prefer to remain nameless at the moment, that they are stored at for safekeeping. It's a fenced in area and it's a safekeeping yard, that we are in a better position to protect and control our inventory and disperse it as necessary.
Yes.
And there's no doubt in my mind that we're going to go through these. And I would like to go, as Aaron requested, up to 100,000. It may not be that, but he wants to be able to get us the best possible deal. And like you said, Mike, we'll push them, we'll get free shipping, we'll be ahead of the game. And this is, of course, all recoverable expense as we go. And I believe he has 15 of them already dedicated, and which is more than 50%. And we are concerned about our supply chain. We don't want to see hiccups and some other things come up. We just have too much going on to have those problems right now. Any other comment, Mike?
No, that's good. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Any comments from my board members?
I just
Mr.
like
Noble.
to commend- Yeah, I just like to commend Aaron for thinking outside the box, thinking ahead with COVID. As most of you know, Scott and I talked about it with Mike Roman, materials, lumber, steel, because the supply chain's so upset. It's just saving us thousands of dollars down the road. So I think this is a great thing.
Yeah, it's really something that's hard to accomplish right now.
Very, very, very challenging. I will tell you that in my own affairs, there are certain types of hardware that were on the shelf that are now 16 weeks out, which is like unheard of.
Next year.
Yeah, it's just nuts. So with that being said, Mr. Powell?
Yes, and if no one has any objection, I move that the township, that we authorize the supervisor and the DPS director to purchase 25 Barnes Simplex pumps at a total cost to be negotiated, but authorize up to $100,000 towards that purchase.
And potential additional volume to get to that price.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion from Mr. Powell looking for support.
Support.
I have support from Mike Rome for the purchase of the grinder pumps not to exceed $100,000 on a volume buy. Of course, I will report back to the board. You'll get a notation from myself and or Aaron as to what we did purchase in the dollar amount. We have motion, we have support. Mr. Noble, roll call vote.
Supervisor Kowal,
Yes.
Treasurer Roman,
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes. Trustee Ruggles,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Trustee Voorhees,
Yes.
Trustee Powell.
Yes,
Very good. Motion carries. Thank you. And thank you all of you for allowing me to add that to the agenda tonight. So One of the things that I want to just speak up real quickly on here is that I hope everyone is in line to get their shot or considering to get their shot and doing what they think is in the best interest. If it isn't, I understand it. If it is, it is. The statistics show that if you do have your shot, that your chances are of contracting the COVID virus is 0.008%. So it is very minimal. That being said, I will go into trustee comments. Mr. Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, and thank you, board members, for another very good meeting. I appreciate that. I've been attending between office phone calls, the MTA conference, and have really enjoyed the in-depth. I much prefer the face-to-face and the visit to another city and the ability to talk to my colleagues here on this board as well as other boards. And evidently next year, it's going to be a week later and going to be in Lansing, assuming we ever get out of this pandemic issue. But I've really learned a lot, and MTA's done an excellent job in putting it together and providing all the technical advice and help that they can. And then something came up in my personal work on my house in that as all of us, and I'm telling this to you guys as well as my residents here in White Lake Township, my fellow residents, all my smoke detectors and smoke alarms were really past due to be improved. And yes, I need to get a life, but I also listened Saturday morning to Joe Gannon on the appliance doctor on WJR, and he had a presentation, 6 months, a year ago, on how to replace those. And he is very adamant and has been vigilant around the entire country to make a statement. And I told him, I emailed him, and then he emailed me back and said, thanks for your note and memory. And he says, it can take up to 41 minutes for an ionizing smoke detector to react to a house fire. The whole country of Australia has banned the sale of them. 7 states in this country have banned them, and people have died because of the slow reaction time of these units. So he says, I go on and on, but people should look them up on their computer and just ask for the controversy on smoke detectors. He says, I live in White Lake as well and can meet with any of us at any time, but he highly suggests that we not buy the ionizing smoke detectors. Wanted to share that with you and my fellow residents in White Lake. And with that, thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Powell. Mr. Roman.
Thanks, Rick. I just want to thank all of our residents for tuning in this evening. And I would like to welcome Kim Patton to White Lake Township as our new deputy treasurer. That's all I had, Rick.
Thank you very much. Andrew Voorhees.
White Lake Township has applied for the Ralph C. Wilson a $50,000 design grant for the Township Triangle Trail. So hopefully we'll know by the end of April if we've gotten that. I unfortunately wasn't able to attend the monthly meeting of Parks and Rec, but the wonderful world of Zoom, I was able to watch it at home. They had a really nice presentation from the Huron River Watershed Council. They're going to visit us again in the fall. It was as a history of the Huron River. Picnic tables were discussed along with dog stands for the poop bags, I guess, at Stanley Park. Our next meeting will probably be Zoom, but probably May and June. But in the summer months, we visit our parks and we'll have face-to-face meetings potentially in July and August at 2 of our township parks, which is always great to have Parks and Recs visit the parks. I was also able to visit Bloomer Park on McKeechee Road. It's really well under control. There wasn't a lot of debris. It was really maintained. It was a nice summer or spring day, I should say. And it was just great. There were quite a few people out walking in it. And as always, I've got to add I always end by saying, be safe, be healthy. And I'm going to add a new one to it, is get vaccinated. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ruggles.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. The Planning Commission met on April 15th for the rezoning request that we saw here tonight. And I've been on our new website, and I'm trying as hard as I can to look up when the next meeting date is, and I'm sure it's the first week of May, but for the life of me, I can't find on that website, so I apologize, but Sean probably has it written down.
May 6th.
May 6th. So one thing that I wanted to bring up is Bloomer Park. Now, I don't know if there's a little food for thought for everybody on the township board, but that's 30 acres of woods out there. And I don't know if we've ever discussed a potential management plan for those woods, or who would be in charge of it. Maybe it's parks themselves, but it's probably something that we're going to want to look into. So on all the woods that we have a kind of like a 10-year rotational harvesting just to manage the woods. You know, if you don't do anything, then they degrade themselves. So that property actually, as it stands now, has a great deal of value in the lumber that's out there, and probably a need for some harvesting too. So I don't know if somebody could take the ball and, you know, look into that, or but it might be something that this township board want to look into. And also, I put in a request to the road commission to get some signage put up on McKeechee Road. Just anything I can do to try to reduce the speed. So I had to put a request into the concerns division to get some horse signs put up. I even was willing to pay for the signs myself if they'd install them or hire the contractor to do it. But I guess they have to do a study, and they'll come out and see if they're appropriate. So we'll wait and see. But if I'm successful, hopefully we can get some signs put on McKeechee Road. But that's my trustee comment.
Thank you, Mr. Ruggles. Trustee Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Just a quick library update. They're still in phase 3. Nothing has changed, and all their information of how you can access the library is currently still on their website. I'm so glad for our mental health resolution. As we know, COVID has taken a toll on everybody in different ways. So I appreciate my colleagues unanimously making that resolution this evening. I did want to mention just a little bit more. My good friend, Mary Whiteford, is the chair of the House and Health Human Services, and she launched today a Michigan Crisis and Action Line, and it's launched in Oakland County and the Upper Peninsula. It's MICAL, M-I-C-A-L. It's a 24-hour hotline connecting callers with the proper local mental health care professionals they need. There's a website you can call 24 hours a day, and you can also text the number as well 24 hours a day. So it's just an extra step to really, it's going to be hard for people to navigate how to get the proper help. So it's just an extra step in getting you the right help. There's absolutely no stigma. Everybody needs help sometimes. If you're embarrassed or uncomfortable to reach out, I'm sure anybody on this board would be happy to confidentially speak to you and connect you with whatever you might need. Also, I wanted to mention that April is National Child Abuse Awareness Month. Unfortunately, sometimes mental health and child abuse go hand in hand, and I just want to encourage our residents to be really observant. Some kids aren't in school right now, and so they don't have extra eyes on them. So I just want to bring that awareness to our community. Often you'll see the blue pinwheels, that's for child abuse awareness in people's yards or gardens. This is a topic very near and dear to my heart. I'll actually be testifying in front of the Michigan House Committee as a child advocate on child abuse this month. Michigan Police Week is May 9th through the 15th. And as you remember, a couple years ago, we made a resolution, our board did, to celebrate Michigan Police Week here in White Lake as well. Due to COVID, they aren't having the festivities that they would like to. So I want to encourage our residents to please find ways to show your appreciation. Michigan Police Week also has a website, and it has, you can sign up. They're looking for help and for social media influencers or people to write cards. And there's a lot of different ideas on there how you and your family or group can show your appreciation to our police officers. I too, Mr. Powell, have enjoyed the MTA conference. I miss seeing all of you. It's a great opportunity that we get to socialize. So I'm sorry that we missed each other, but MTA has been doing a great job virtually. And I wanted to again congratulate our new fire chief, John Holland, and I'm looking forward to celebrating him on Thursday. Thank you for letting me know. I did want to just quickly mention that our fire department will be doing training on the Brown House next to the Civic Center. So this week and in the future, so don't be concerned, residents, if you see a lot of trucks or a lot of activity in that area. Lastly, just please stay healthy. There's numerous school closings in Walled Lake School District right now, and it is still of great concern, COVID. So please stay safe and healthy. God bless our first responders and our community. That's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Noble.
First of all, I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to get to govern like we do. It's a privilege to be able to sit on this board. I'd like to take the time, kind of piggybacking off what Liz said about Police Week, which is dear to me and I appreciate so much. I've been out of police work now, retired for 6 months, and I appreciate the police officers as well as I really appreciate the fire department. The weekends, the holidays is a sacrifice that a lot of them take away from their families. Having the opportunity to work here at the township, I get to notice employees a lot and what they're doing to think outside the box to be more efficient. I'd like to mention Sherry Barber, Nick, our building official. They are constantly thinking outside the box and being efficient and coming up with new ways to be efficient for the customers, the developers, the residents, as well as saving the taxpayers money. And I want to applaud them. I'd like to thank Sean and Justin tonight. They've caught some mistakes on plans and made quick corrections, and they're always on top of things. And I get to see it firsthand when I walk through in the morning. And John Wheaton, another guy that's here real early when I come in the morning, always a smile on his face, and Doug, of course, at night. And talking about Police Week, I think there's an employee here that's very, doesn't get enough recognition. That's Jason Hudson. He goes to the houses when people are angry. He solves problems. I told him today, I said, you got a dangerous job. You're going to houses and people are pretty upset to see it. But if you get a chance to see Jason's interpersonal communication skills, I ask you to just spend an hour with him and speak and watch him interact with the citizens. He represents the township amazing because it's a very unappreciative, thankless job, if you want to know from my perspective. And it's a very dangerous job. You're walking into volatile situations, and I watch how calm Jason handles things such as that. So I'd like to applaud those employees, and that's from where I sit. We have an amazing staff here, and I applaud all the staff. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Noble. Well, I'd like to let all you know that tomorrow I go in for my second shot. So hopefully I won't react adversely to it. We'll go from there. And again, I think that people need to move forward with that. And it's very important. I also will alert the board that there will be multiple special meetings here and meetings/workshops here in the next few weeks. So you'll be getting some notices on those. I'd like to thank Sean and Justin, mostly Justin, for working diligently with me in the grant application, of which the board approved last week via resolution for the $1.6 million for infrastructure, which I'm going to say it could be 2 million, and with us could be 2.4 million, and I know we approved up to 2. We'll see where it goes. We'll keep you posted. I'm going to be watching for those as Sean and Justin are, and any opportunity we'll take advantage of that. The other thing is that we have multiple grants that we are moving forward with for WODA. Kim Viner, our director, is seeking those and hopefully to be able to utilize some of the Save America money that's out there to do that. They do have a $50.3 billion dedicated to transportation alone. So I will tell you that we are going to go after it, and we're going to get whatever we can. So those will be things that we're doing to better our community. We have seen an uptick in ridership. We've seen quite a bit of activity. People are now starting to understand, and we're starting to become, we have to be very careful because we're starting to get more rides sometimes, some days, and we have buses and staff available. So if you want an interesting part-time career, I'll call it a career because it is kind of cool to mingle with some of the folks in our community. We're looking for persons that potentially could become drivers, part-time drivers for our WODA system. You can go to the website, WODA Transportation, and go to White Lake Township and go, or Highland Township, or any of the townships that might be within earshot, and you'll see Waterford, White Lake, and Highland and Walled Lake have gone together to formulate this service, which has proven very, very helpful to many people, especially during the pandemic. So you were all lucky to be living in White Lake Township in today's world, and everybody stay safe, stay healthy. And with that, I say thank you all for allowing myself to be the leader of this community and leading with this board in the manner of which we do to move things forward, and even our illustrious attorney. So with that, I say good night, God bless, and looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Looking for
Support.
motion to adjourn by Mike Roman, support from trustee Smith. Mr. Noble.
Supervisor Colwell,
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes. Treasurer Roman,
Yes.
Trustee Ruggles,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Trustee Voorhees,
Yes.
Trustee Powell.
Yes.
Good night, everyone. God bless.
Good night.
Good
night, all.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.